because there's not a ton of late game power in the deck. Everything is exactly. Hello everybody and welcome back to another budget video with me, John. Today we're playing a budget mono red deck that's so low to the ground that we're calling this deck Little Red Corvette. As you can see, most of our curve is 1-drops. We do have a few 2-drops, but let's go ahead and just jump right into it. But before we do, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And also I want to give a thanks to everyone that has subscribed and watched and liked and all that stuff. I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. Thank you so much. Now, let's go ahead and start talking about the deck, starting with our aggressive 1-drops. So first up here, we're going to talk about Rabbit Battery. A 1-mana 1/1 with haste and with reconfigure for 1 red mana, and equipped creature has +1/+1 and haste. We also have Reinforced Ronin. A 1-mana 2/2 with haste. With at the beginning of your end step, return Reinforced Ronin to its owner's hand. Also, if you find yourself in a situation to where you can't play an attack efficiently, you can use its channel ability to just pay 2 mana, discard it, and draw a card. Next up we have Simian Sling, another 1-mana 1/1, no haste this time, but equipped creature gets +1/+1, so if you reconfigure for 2, that creature is going to have +1/+1. And this next ability, which is Simian Sling, or equipped creature, whenever Simian Sling or equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to defending player. So incentivize you to not be afraid of attacking, because even if you are blocked, you still do get in your 1 point of damage. Next up, we have a pseudo 1-drop in Kumano, Faces of Kakazan. I hope I said that right. It's a 1 mana, and the first lore counter is it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. So kind of a nice bonus. You get to hit a planeswalker if they have one, but really we're playing this kind of like a 1-drop with haste. We play it for 1, the opponent takes some damage. On the next turn, whenever we cast our next creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And on the third lore counter, we get a 2/2 with haste with, if a creature dealt damage this turn by a source you control would die, exile it instead. That's fine. Really, it's just another creature that we can keep getting aggressive with. Now, if you notice, all of our 1-drops are artifact creatures. Artifact. So our 1-drops help us support the 2-drops that are in the deck. So starting with Patchwork Automaton, a 2-mana 1/1 with Ward 2, and whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Automaton. We also have Dragonspark Reactor, a 2-mana artifact. Whenever Dragonspark Reactor or another artifact enters the battlefield, put a charge counter on Dragonspark Reactor. You can also pay 4 mana and sacrifice Dragonspark Reactor, and it deals damage equal to the number of charge counters on it to a target player, and that much damage to up to 1 target creature. Another artifact that we have in the deck that can help trigger both the Reactor and the Automaton, and also give us a little bit of card advantage, is Experimental Synthesizer. A 1-mana artifact that whenever it enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, exile the top card of your library until the end of turn you may play that card. So essentially drawing us a card when it enters or leaves the battlefield. Notice it says play, so if we haven't played a land from our hand, we can play one from exile off of this card right here. Also, it has pay 3 mana, sacrifice it, and make a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance, activate only as a sorcery, but it has a way of triggering itself so we can get that extra card. So yeah, essentially we can get 2 cards off of this. So this is our card advantage spell. And aside from that, we just have some cards that are going to help support our aggressive strategy, right? So we have 4 copies of Royal Eruption. Royal Eruption is a 2-mana sorcery that deals 3 damage to any target. So we can point this at a creature, we can point this at our opponent's face, whatever we want to do. Also, it has kicker of an additional 5 that can make it deal 5 damage instead. Moving on, we have Play with Fire, a 1-mana instant, deals 2 damage to any target, but if we do hit a player with this, we get to scry 1. So again, we're incentivized to go face with this card. Also, we have Vault Surge, Vault Surge, a 1-mana instant. As additional cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice an artifact. Vault Surge deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and if the additional cost was paid, it can deal 4. So we can just use this as a 1-mana removal spell, because this one is one that won't go face, but a good early game removal spell to keep our little guys getting in there, and also we can sacrifice something later on to deal with something, maybe a big flyer that mono white's throwing at us, or a big creature that mono green is throwing at us, right? And last but not least, we have Lunar Frenzy. This is in the deck. You might have seen it if you saw my Gruul aggro video. This card was very good in that deck, and that's why I brought it back for this one. This is a way to give us just a little bit more reach. It's an instant speed spell, so we can use it to pump a creature to get in a little bit extra damage, or we can use this to block through big creatures, which can be something that low to the ground aggressive decks might struggle with. But yeah, it's red, X, and target creature you control gets +X/+O and gains first strike and trample until the end of turn. Very important, both of those things. The first strike helps us blow past a big creature, leaving our creature potentially unscathed, and the trample just helps us get through that creature to do just a little bit more damage. But that's pretty much the deck. Otherwise, we just have 18 basic mountains. Very simple. Yeah, so we have a budget deck with no rares, no mythics, just commons and uncommons. Let's see how the deck performs. I'll stick with that same format of just having the music playing, and just so you can see how the deck runs. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Let's go ahead and get into the games, and I'll see you guys in the final thoughts. Okay, everybody, we're back with the final thoughts. Little man woke up here, so perfect timing though, because the matches were done. We got him in. The deck performed pretty much how I thought it would. You kind of you get in there quick, you do a lot of damage, and you use some of your late game, some of your burn and reach to help you out towards the mid and late game. If you don't have those things, you kind of can fall apart in the late game because there's not a ton of late game power in the deck. Everything is exactly what he's trying to say is the deck is pretty heavily front loaded, so you want to get your damage in quick and as early as possible, and just use your burn, your lunar frenzies, your dragon spark reactors to finish your opponents off. So the games do run pretty quick. You're either going to win or you're going to lose in a few turns, or at least you might get in a position against certain mid range decks or decks with with more late game power, you might find yourself struggling a little bit. But the good thing is, you know, if you haven't won by that time, just move on to the next match, get that volume in. But yeah, a good deck. So if you're looking for something to build and play that doesn't require you to burn any of your rare or mythic wild cards, this is a pretty fun deck. The artifact synergy was pretty interesting. All right, bud. Okie doke. But honestly, that's about all I have to say about the deck. It performs fine. There's not a lot of late game power, but you can steal some games pretty nicely with this deck. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for every like. Thank you for every sub. And even if you didn't sub or like, just watching the channel is really helpful. So thank you all so much for that. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.